Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. This is your host, Michael Doherty of AutoFix-Advisorcast. Episode 1. Last week, we talked about building and retaining client relationships as an automotive repair service advisor. I feel that that was a very important thing to talk about. And in this episode, to expand on part of that, I would like to talk about building and retaining relationships with coworkers. The coworkers that I have worked with, some of them, it's been over a period of 15 years. And there definitely has to be trust when working with people for that long. What I mean by trust is knowing that the information that is being provided to you by the technicians as a service advisor is not something that you would second guess. Last week, I had a client come in with a vehicle, and when the client came in, he did not have an appointment. No big deal. Be happy to get him in. Always help the client, right? Again, building and retaining client relationships. If you could have seen the look on his face when he walked in, he was very afraid. He kept saying, "My car is not acting right. It's hesitating." He was shaking. I actually walked out to the front lobby and the hazards were on in the vehicle. So that told me right away that that's the type of scenario that I'm dealing with this particular vehicle, with this client, that it's that much of an emergency. I very rarely can count on one hand how many times over the years a client has come in with their hazards on. And I understand that we get clients sometime that call and say that they want to bring their vehicle in. What would we recommend? Tow it, drive it. And it depends on what's going on, obviously, but I can't recall the last time that I had somebody come in with their hazards on. So I knew that the concern that this individual had was very. So he got an Uber, he left. I sent the client a text link for authorization to dig into the concern. And when I asked him the morning when he dropped off what the concern was, he really couldn't describe it. He just kept saying over and over, drive the vehicle, Michael. You'll feel it. You'll see what I'm talking about. And when I had the morning meeting that morning, I had mentioned in the morning meeting that the client's description wasn't all there. So asking the technicians at that point, because I wasn't sure who I was going to pair the vehicle with or dispatch the vehicle to out of the 3 technicians that we have, and just letting them know up front that the information provided wasn't going to be the best information because, again, the client just didn't know how to describe the concern. But in any event, the vehicle was test driven by the technician. The report that I received back from the technician stated that he checked for faults, did not see any relative to the client's concern, and they test drove the vehicle and that he didn't feel anything odd. And also, a side note, I don't know what you want me to do with this. The technician did not see the look on the client's face when he dropped off that morning. I did. Just so happened, maybe 5 minutes before I was getting ready to leave to go to lunch that day, and in episode 1, I talked about self-care for service advisors, and that I usually, or not all the time, take lunch. So from episode 1, I'm doing better self-care. I'm taking a lunch break. Yay. So I asked the technician if he was done with the vehicle and that I wanted to test drive it. He said, sure. So I got in the vehicle. It was a very nice day. I put the windows down about halfway, front and rear, turned off the radio, turned off the HVAC, and really just wanted to tune into anything that I felt or heard that might be weird. And I know sometimes people have noise concerns or just things that, again, depending on the weather situation, as long as it's not raining outside, put the windows down a little bit, turn off the radio, turn off the HVAC, really listen to what the vehicle's telling you. And when I drove this vehicle, I think I got maybe half a mile down the road, came to the stoplight, and when the light turned green, I just took my foot off the accelerator. I didn't accelerate at that point. I apologize. I took my foot off the brake. I didn't accelerate at that point. And usually when the car's in drive, you take your foot off the brake, the car kind of starts to go a little bit as long as the car's in drive. This did not. It felt weird. As I began to accelerate, acceleration really wasn't there either. And I'm going up a hill a little bit, but still, this is a 2017 BMW X3 28i S drive. So 4-cylinder, turbocharged, rear wheel drive vehicle. Not a heavy vehicle. I still feel the 4-cylinders underrated in those vehicles, but in any event, again, under acceleration, it just didn't feel like it wanted to go. It felt like the brakes were dragging. Honestly, that's my first gut feeling. It feels like the brakes are dragging, or maybe the e-brake's on. And I looked down at the parking brake, and the light is not on to show that it's engaged. No worries. And I'm continuing my drive. I come up to the next stoplight, and I was able to reproduce what I did at the first stoplight. So I got to my destination for lunch, got out of the vehicle, texted the technician, and said I was able to duplicate what I felt was a hesitation. It really feels like the brakes are dragging. I'm going to finish my lunch and return to the shop. And could you please recheck the vehicle when I get back? And the technician replied, okay. So got back to the shop, left the vehicle running, and went inside. Told the technician that the vehicle was outside running. He was in the process of working on another one. So I went outside, shut it off, brought him the key. Probably about 20 minutes later, I walked in the shop and the vehicle is up in the air on the service lift. And I walked over to the technician and I said, hey, what do you think? What did you find? And with the vehicle up in the air on the service lift, he was unable to just move the passenger and driver's front wheels, tires, couldn't spin them. No unsprung weight on the vehicle, could not spin or move the front wheels or tires. The front brakes are locked up on this vehicle. So I'm really glad that I went with my gut and decided to drive the vehicle on behalf of the client. Had I have called that client and said, hey, Mr. Jones, Mrs. Jones, we checked out your vehicle. My technician test drove it, wasn't able to duplicate anything, no stored faults for anything that might be drivetrain related. You can come pick up your vehicle. I would feel absolutely horrible if they got down the road and something got worse because of that. And the reason that I mention having worked with technicians for so long and having that trust, it's paramount. And I don't really feel that the technician wanted to overlook that vehicle. I don't feel that he was rushed to check out that vehicle. I don't know what happened, but I'm glad that I was able to drive the vehicle and just for myself know that it really didn't feel right. Something was wrong. It ended up the hydro boost unit is failing. And that's a very, very expensive part on those vehicles. The client ended up wanting to do the work, put a parts deposit down. We ordered the part, and this coming week, we're going to do that work. And I've had several transactions with that technician over the year where I just didn't feel that maybe he was really invested in figuring out the client's concern, or maybe thought it wasn't a great ticket to start with, and that maybe, to be honest, he just didn't care. And that's the exception, not the rule. I've worked with these people for a very long time, and this particular technician, everybody has their good days and their bad days. But in that moment, I felt obligated. I felt obligated to test drive the vehicle. And as I had mentioned in episode 1, as a service advisor, you are the first and last line of defense for your client. You are your client's advocate. You're a client advocate. You want to give them the best experience possible. And they need to feel that. They need to feel that genuine care. And being a service advisor, that is your job, to make them feel that. And I guess question for service advisors out there, do you guys or gals drive client vehicles from time to time? Or do you just take the technician's word for what they're looking at? And again, it's case by case scenario. But in this particular instance, this was a seasoned technician that said he drove the vehicle and he didn't feel anything weird. And I just don't know how that was possible. And I'm not judging him for that. I honestly am not. But maybe his thought process wasn't on that car at that moment. maybe his thought process was somewhere else and he just, drove the vehicle. I don't know how far he drove it. I want to say it was maybe 2 miles. I feel like when I got in the vehicle, it said like 2.4 miles on the trip odometer. And when I check in a vehicle, before I write it up and send it back to the technician, I always reset the trip odometer to 0. And the reason I do that is because I want to know that they test drove the vehicle as part of a drivability concern or just a concern in general. How far they drove it tells me how much further I need to maybe drive it myself or look into that. And also, I like driving client vehicles. It gives me a chance to just kind of give it not a shakedown, but after I get a job back from a technician, if it's been a big job that we did, and reason for that, I would say engine cooling system work, drivetrain work, brake work, suspension work. Again, anytime I get in a vehicle after I drive it from a technician working on it, and again, I'm coming from, I'm the last line of defense. When I call the client to say, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, great news, your car is ready. I really want to know that the issue's been resolved. And that's just my integrity in doing the job and want to make sure that the client's going to be satisfied. And also that I'm preventing a comeback possibly. Is there a noise after we do the suspension work? We do a steering rack. Again, I'm in the vehicle. I'm radio off, HVAC off, steering wheel all the way to the left, locked, all the way to the right, locked, just listening. Is there a popping sound? Is there anything that might be an issue before I give this client a call to tell them that their vehicle's ready? So again, are you driving vehicles? Are you allowed to drive vehicles at your shop? Is that a policy? Is that not a policy? And I don't drive everyone, ones that we have for quick services, maybe an oil service or maybe, air filter, cabin filter, something like that isn't as paramount for me to drive. But also during the vehicle check-in process or the walk around, I mean, there's so many opportunities there just to, again, radio off, HVAC off, listen to the vehicle. It will talk to you. I promise it will. And on a lot of BMWs, for people that work with BMW specifically, you've got the passenger and driver's front lower thrust arms, or I think they're called traction strut arms, but they've got separate bushings, and over time those bushings go bad. They tear and they cause excessive movement on the arm. And I can't tell you the amount of vehicles I've gotten in for people that have those, and just moving the vehicle in the parking lot a couple hundred feet and hitting the brakes, and you hear a clunk, or you just have that feel. You can feel that they're bad. And on the vehicles that I feel that on the check-in process, when I'm parking the vehicle, I'll actually make a note to the technician saying, hey, I felt or I heard something in the front end. And if the vehicle's not in for a front end concern or a noise concern, again, it's not something the client asked us to check out. Chances are they don't even know about it. And it's an opportunity for your shop, again, showing the client that you care. Now, they may not buy the work, but at least they know about what you heard or what you discovered. And I think that goes a long way because you're doing more than what you're asked to do by the client. It builds a great relationship and trust. And again, with the coworkers, having that trust. Once in a while, maybe going out with the technicians to get food for lunch, or just going back in the shop if you have a little bit of time, talking with them, maybe with a vehicle that they're working on. Now, if they're doing an engine rebuild, I wouldn't recommend that. But if they're doing a service or a maintenance and, they're draining oil and you see them maybe texting on their phone, hey, good time to go back there and just chat with them real quick, about that vehicle. Hey, was there anything specifically that you saw that maybe, the vehicle wasn't in for? Could you let me know, on the vehicle check-in or the DVI? So great things there. Also, one of the reasons I like driving clients' vehicles is it gives me product knowledge. And product knowledge is paramount, especially when you're talking with people about their vehicles. The product knowledge portion comes in from driving so many vehicles and saying, I've driven that vehicle before. The brake pedal should feel like that, or the suspension, might make that noise, or, and again, I mean, paraphrasing, but just driving different vehicles just to get familiar with them. And a lot of newer vehicles, and by newer, I say we'll call it 2025 year models that are already out, 24s, 23s that we're not seeing so much of, but maybe for in between oil change from their warranty work from the dealer and whatnot. Also, great thing to tell people too is a lot of people don't know in the service advisor realm, Magnuson-Moss Act, that is in place, and it prevents a dealership from denying the client warranty work on their vehicle because they had their service or maintenance performed somewhere else. So if you have a client that has a new vehicle, you are able to perform the service and maintenance on that vehicle. And if they go back to the dealer just to have their warranty concerns fixed, the dealer cannot deny them their warranty. And I think that's a great also way to let clients know, advertise that on your website, or, when a client comes in to drop off a vehicle, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, have you gotten any new vehicles in the family? And, they might tell you, yeah, I got a 1-year-old, whatever. Well, who's doing the service and maintenance on it? Oh, we have to do it at the dealer. No, you don't. And here's why. And when you tell them about that Magnuson-Moss Act and they look it up, again, product knowledge. And I've had so many clients come in and do, service and maintenance. And while we're doing the service and maintenance, we may see something that is under their warranty and bring it up to them. Hey, this is starting to leak coolant, or this is starting to leak oil. And if they have that newer vehicle that might be going out of warranty, invite them in to do a going out of warranty check over, because the dealer's not going to tell them about some of this stuff. I've definitely had the phone call of, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, thank you for bringing your car in for the oil service. By the way, we noted that, your coolant pump is leaking or the oil pan gasket's leaking. And they'll say, well, wait a minute, I just had this car at the dealership a month ago going out of warranty, and they didn't tell me about any of that stuff. And now it's a battle between them and the dealer, That's never a good situation. So why not get it in, check it out for them? It's not all about making money. It's about building those relationships and letting them know that you care. So again, I kind of refocused on episode 1, but for the coworker part of it, do you trust your coworkers and what they're telling you? Have you had those situations where you feel obligated to go drive the client vehicle to check it out for yourself, or maybe the information you've gotten back from the technician you don't feel is the right information? And it's not insulting to go back and say, I don't agree with you. It's okay to disagree. Have a conversation about it. Not an argument, right? A conversation is to find out what's going on. And there's nothing wrong with it. And also, it's how you present it. Yeah, if you go back there as a service advisor and go, yeah, that's definitely not it, and you need to check it out again, yeah, good luck. You're going to get in an argument for sure. If you go back there and say, hey, I got your write-up, I have a couple questions. Could you explain to me your thought process on this and why you think this is what's going on? And again, it's okay to disagree respectively with one another. But communication and trust with coworkers, and that is very important. One cool thing I actually got to do this weekend is go by the local Porsche dealership. And the reason I did that, I didn't do it during business hours, of course, because I'm not ready to purchase yet. It's going to be a long time for that. But it's a goal. It's a cool goal. I'd love to get a 911. I think it's so fascinating how over the years Porsche's been able to still retain the classic 911 look and just make little tweaks and modifications. And one of the dealerships nearest, they have a shark blue. This blue is fantastic looking. I mean, really just eye-catching. It's called Shark Blue on a 911. And just to go, honestly, touch it, put my hand on it, look at the window sticker, cry a little bit, and make a goal to want to get that car. Probably going to be definitely a CPO, certified pre-owned down the line, but just having access to go see cool things like that locally. And, what are you driving as a service advisor? What's your daily vehicle? What are you driving? What project cars do you have? What vehicle or vehicles would you like to have in the future? And, knowing that it's tangible, it's reachable, set a goal and go check it out. Go look at it. Take it for a drive if they'll let you. But episode 2, this is Michael Doherty from AutoFix-Auto. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Go Service Advisor Nation. Alrighty, y'all.